Representative Larkin votes aye. Representative Mendez.
Mr. Speaker, I raise to explain my vote.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I keep hearing about how state spending must be contained to the levels below ongoing state revenues, but then we keep cutting state revenues, making structural balance harder and harder to reach. I don't think that this is a hard decision, and it's not that I don't just disagree with this policy. I think this is philosophically wrong. I think there's a big difference between charity and government. I didn't run for office to bring about more charity. Charity is insulting to those in need. This abdication of our power as legislators fails to recognize the real need in Arizona. By allowing people to withhold investment in our general fund, we will never allow for substantial change. We'll never do anything. Thank you.
And how do you vote?
I vote no.
No. Representative Weninger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to explain my vote.
Yes, sir.
Coming from a city council background, there was a couple projects where we built multi-million-dollar projects, Boys and Girls Club for once. And the city government readily admitted, and this is, I'm assuming and thinking across all governments, including other city governments, that it was going to cost us 25% more. Anything the city did that the private sector could do would add 25% to it. So that's one way we're actually saving money. We're getting money to the private sector, to the nonprofits, which I'm so proud of the job that they are doing, especially in this. I mean, I like them all, but the foster care nonprofits, which are so desperately needed at this time. So you're saving money that way. You're saving money because these foster care nonprofits are stepping up to the plate and diverting children from going into congregate care, which is far more expensive than the foster care system. And you're supporting those families that are become foster care parents. You're helping encourage that. So I just think it's funny that the accountability that you want on these nonprofits, when there's just really no or very little accountability in government at all. I agree this is an easy decision, so me and Representative Mendez agree on that, and I do appreciate some of the Democrats crossing the aisle to support our nonprofits here today. Thank you.
And how do you vote?
And I vote aye.
Representative Weninger votes aye. Representative Finchem.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to explain my vote.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to express sincere appreciation to Representative Mendez for highlighting the fundamental philosophical difference between philosophies on whether or not taxpayer dollars are truly taxpayer dollars. And I would like to express the idea, the concept, if you will, that they're not taxpayer dollars until they're handed over to the government. The government does not own every piece of property, every corner of our lives, every single thing that you might look into. The government doesn't own that. In fact, I hope that civics teachers will capture this video so that they can see this give and take, because I think this is an outstanding example of expressing ideas that really get to the deeply held ideas that two factions have. I would advocate for the idea that it is the responsibility of the elected to have the lightest touch possible on our everyday lives. And if those who know how to manage money, and I'll cite Basis School, for example, in Oro Valley, built a school for $4.5 million. A similar school is about to be built, serving a similar population and very nearby, similar student count, for $14 million. One's a private, one's a government. So having that demonstrates the lightest touch possible. And if that means that those who are good at taking care of people don't give money to the government to turn around and recycle and send it back, I could never understand the whole rebate game. Why not just drop your price? So with that, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to be an aye, and I like to see legislation like this so that we empower people instead of empowering the government.
Representative Finchem votes aye. Representative Benally.